People told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA.
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 49 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host, Gabriel Chelio, here with
Adam Casucci.
And today we are finishing off some origin story episodes / talking about the new signings to the Raptors. Specifically, we have 3 guys we want to talk about. Before we get into that, we hope you all enjoyed the past couple of episodes. We like to see feedback, some critiques. That's always good. And of course, we want you to like and subscribe to the content. So check us out on YouTube or also Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever platform you want to listen to. But to get into this, we kind of talked about these were the last couple of guys we wanted to mention on the team and kind of break them down because some of them either have training camp deals or actual deals to the team. And Adam made a good point about the importance of having a deep rotation and then signing and like talking about these smaller players in terms of popularity. Because of chance of COVID, right? Adam, you can just expand on that.
Yeah. So when looking at this year's role for these filler players or these players deeper in the rotation, it's very important to stay ready and stay fit for their opportunity because COVID, it could spread obviously really quickly, being an infectious virus, and it could hit multiple people at one time. So if a couple of the starters or players get it, we could be seeing guys in the deeper rotation play big minutes in games, right? Early on in the season as well. So we just have to stay healthy, and but these guys will probably play a bigger role this year, especially if one guy gets it and another guy has to quarantine for 2 weeks or whatever. It will be huge for these 3 players to be involved in the team.
Especially because if a player on the starting roster gets it, that kind of puts everyone on the starting roster at risk. And if somehow the team is still managed to play, I'm not really sure what the rules are going to be in terms of does the whole team have to miss a couple of games? Does their schedule get cut out? I'm not too sure. But let's say it was, one person that hasn't been in, too much contact per se, like a coaching staff, and he's only trained with like one person. Like maybe that person sits out, and then from there, you can use these guys if they end up going to the G League on a 2-way contract or they get waived from their training camp deals, then you can bring that in because that person hasn't been exposed to that environment. So it's a possibility that they could be moved, but at the same time, we don't know if the rules are going to be strict, like not too much movement between G League and regular league because that's going to cause more of a chance of a contraction of the virus because there's more people and it's outside of that key bubble. But it's going to be interesting. This is obviously a wacky season, just like the last one, and it's going to be weird with all the protocols and rules. They already had a bunch of protocols put in place of not being able to visit bars, clubs, lounges, gaming venues, like stuff like that. So there's already a lot of things put in place to help prevent this spread, and we don't know how the players are going to how it's going to work between the G League and the regular team. There's not much talked about, but they're constantly working on different rules and trying to make this the safest possible. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see on what the final rulings are. So to get into this thing, the first person we have, I believe his name's pronounced Alize Johnson, born in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, to David Hill and Chanel Johnson. He has 3 brothers, David, Davian, and Naza, as well as 4 sisters, Davisha, Destiny, Davida, and Alana. Wow, a lot of siblings in that family. He went to St. John Newman Regional Academy, and as a freshman, he was only 5'9" point guard, but at the end of high school, ended up growing to 6'4".
Growth spurt.
Big growth spurt there, and more to come. He led his team to a 30-1 record, averaging 24 points a game, 15 boards, 6.3 assists, but he didn't have any D1 offers at his senior year, and there was only a little bit of interest from St. Peter's and St. Francis, but he ended up attending Frank Phillips College, so not really a known place there in terms of the NCAA D1 especially league. During his high school years, Johnson also played AAU basketball for Team Pennsylvania based out of Harrisburg, but then transferred to Missouri State to finish athletic and academic career. So that's where we start getting a little bit of the name back. And he had a very solid junior year. He finished with 17 double-double, scoring 20 or more points in 9 games, grabbing 10-plus rebounds in 22 games, including a stretch in January where he had 10 straight 10-plus rebound games. And some of the big games I wanted to mention was he scored 20 points and recorded 16 rebounds in a 10-point win over Oral Roberts on December 14, 2016. And also he had, on the 30th, he scored a career-high 30 points on 50% shooting, grabbing 14 rebounds against Indiana State. So solid game there. And he was named to the MVC All-Tournament team that year, and the MVC, he was named Newcomer of the Year. Before the next season, his senior year, he was invited to Adidas National Basketball Camp with talent like Michael Porter Jr. And he was named the most valuable player in the camp, and that dramatically improved his draft stock and the mock draft. He was placed a lot higher. Some people had him placed late first round. Other people were saying early second. And with both years at MVC, Johnson was a 2-time first-team All-MVC, and he eventually ended up graduating with a communications degree as well. In the draft, Johnson ended up being selected by the Indiana Pacers with the 50th pick, so he did slip a little bit from some of the people's predictions, but we know that, especially from this year's draft, the late first round, early second, it's all over the place on draft boards and mock drafts, and it's kind of hard to predict where some people are going to fall. He also declared the year before for the draft, but then eventually stepped down. He wanted to kind of judge how the team interest was, and he came into the league approximately 6'8", 217 pounds, power forward from what I saw on Draft Express, and made his debut for the Pacers at the 2018 NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. Against the Houston Rockets in one of the games, he scored 15 points, had 4 rebounds, 2 assists in 16 minutes of play. But we obviously don't see the most out of him or any of these 3 guys in the league. They spend most of their time in the G League or kind of bouncing around. Plus, this guy's relatively new, only past 2 years a part of the professional atmosphere outside of college. He had his NBA debut versus the Milwaukee Bucks on October 19, 2018. However, he remained in the G League for most of the season. He finished the season with averages of 18.8 points per game, 13.5 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 1.4 blocks. And then in the 2019-2020 NBA season, he scored a team-high 17 points and grabbed 8 boards over the Sacramento Kings. And then now recently, November 27th, about a week ago, Johnson signed a deal with the Toronto Raptors. So now he's coming over to us, and we'll talk a little bit about the contract situation after we do the next player as well. But one final thing I just wanted to mention was he's a very charitable person, what I found about him, very active in the charity and activism landscape in his hometown and in Indianapolis area where he played for the Pacers and the Mad Ants, the G League team. 2 years ago, he launched his own foundation, and the first major fundraiser was giving out Thanksgiving meals to over 100 families. He has also donated basketball shoes for the Lycoming County Varsity High School basketball team with over 40 players getting pairs of shoes. In 2019, he donated $145,000 to open a basketball court at a park in his area. And on July 19, 2020, he held his first basketball camp at his former high school where 45 kids participated and were given Pacers gear. So he clearly loves to give back to the community, especially as a player that's not, making the most amount of money. Obviously, they do make a lot of money compared to the average person, but obviously he's not like making Steph Curry money or any big star in the league. So to give back with that amount of money is obviously great to see, very charitable, and I could see that he's obviously a great person. And in terms of basketball play, we haven't seen the most out of him. We did do a little bit of research on his play in college specifically. So Adam, what have you seen from him so far?
From Alize Johnson, in terms of playing standpoint, he has been shooting the 3-ball well throughout his career, and I think that's a key part of his success if he's going to be successful with Toronto. I do think that he will have to learn, once again, have to absorb from the veterans and learn the defensive system and how Nick wants him to play in the system, which is, I think, a major part to everyone's on the team's success. And I do think he's going to be a good part to this team. I do think he can fill in rotation minutes if injuries do occur. And he's very good with the ball. Watching highlights of him, very good taking it to the rim, very strong body. I think he'll do well in this team, and I think he's a good pickup by my side.
Yeah, what I noticed as well, athletic, we said strong. His handle was actually quite impressive for his size. He had a good dribble on him. He did take a lot of shots, which I was, kind of surprised to see the shots that he was taking. It was pretty good. He wasn't afraid to shoot over players, especially from 3-point or even middies. He was taking some tough leaning middies. He liked doing a little step back from the mid-range, like a side step. And it was impressive to see him at that size. One thing we did talk about, though, was the form was a little bit weird. I know you had a little bone to pick on that one.
Yeah, it looked almost like Lonzo Ball, like the way he's flicking his wrist when he's shooting. And that's no negative there. I mean, everyone has their different shooting forms. And everyone shoots differently to make their shot the best. And I think if he just keeps on shooting the way he is and makes it consistent, I think he'll be fine with that shooting form.
Yeah, you know what they say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It seems to be falling, and although it's not pretty, it's going in. So if it's going in, I guess you got to keep it that way. And if they want to make minor tweaks, they could. But it's definitely an abnormal shooting form. Like you said, the wrist is weird, but even the base, I notice he kicks out his foot a lot, like 1 foot especially. Yeah. Especially when he's doing like these sidestep middies and pull-ups. It looks very weird, but it's falling. So there's not much we can say about him. Obviously, all three of these players actually are kind of raw talent still, especially him. He's young, only his like maybe third real year in the league, including G League, NBA, just out of college. So there's still a lot to grow, and he's just got potential, but obviously needs to be developed a lot more. And whether or not we end up calling him up or we send him to the G League or just waive him in general, it's kind of hard to tell. We'll see what happens, but like you said, if he managed to get some type of minutes on the starting lineup through injury or illness, it's possible that we could see him filling out a couple minutes here and there, especially near the end. And like you said, I think that he could fit the system a little bit and just kind of play in some rotational minutes. And you also mentioned that he kind of reminds you of a little bit of like OG when he was like OG underdeveloped years. Rookie year obviously came in pretty confident, could shoot pretty well, and his defense was good, but he did look a little awkward on the floor, like he didn't fit into his body just right. And I think a little bit of the similarity here, he's a little bit awkward while playing. Yeah,
he has the advantage having the NBA body already, like OG did coming into the league. Very strong, buff player, can guard multiple positions, very fast for a considered big man. So it's going to be interesting seeing him develop. And I think he just has to work on his skills, just his raw skill, handling the ball, shooting the ball, and inside scoring. If he can do that and play great defense, I think he could, for real, start being a rotational player in this team. So now moving on to Yuta Watanabe. So Yuta was born in Yokohama, Japan, on October 13th, 1994, but grew up in Miki, Kagawa. His mother, sister, and father all played professional basketball, with his mom even being on the Japan's women's national team. So a little bit of athletics in the family already. Yep. During his childhood, Watanabe's favorite NBA player was Kobe Bryant, so another idol, looking up to Kobe, especially internationally. A lot of players looked up to Kobe, Michael Jordan, LeBron when growing up, which is also his favorite basketball team, the Lakers. Watanabe attended Jinsei Yakun High School in Kagawa. He led the basketball team to the runner-up spot of the All-Japan High School Basketball Tournament in his final 2 years with the program. So it's also good to see that he can be a star player, obviously on a lower level in high school, but being a star player of a team also takes a lot of skill, a lot of leadership, and it's great to see that he has that. In late 2013, Watanabe traveled to the United States, attended St. Thomas More Preparatory School in Oakdale, Connecticut. So moving to the United States is probably a big switch for him, understanding the way of life here. He helped the team reach a 26-8 overall record and a ticket to the National Prep Championship game. So once again, leading his team, very, very amazing offensive performances. On January 31st, 2014, at the National Prep School Invitational, he dropped 20 points and 6 boards against the Canaris Basketball Academy from Spain in a 70-61 victory. And he was also named to the National Prep School Invitational All-Tournament team because of this. Also labeled the chosen one by the Japan Times. So he's he's really looked upon highly in Japan, and they really think that he can be a major player in this league. He was a 3-star recruit, according to ESPN Recruiting Nation, coming out of high school. George Washington Colonials eventually got him to commit to their team, and was the team that he stayed with in college. He became the first ever Japanese-born man to be given NCAA Division I basketball scholarship. So he's breaking records left, right, and center here. Yes. For the international game, especially for Japan, and was only the fourth to ever play college at that level. The fact that he was an Asian player assuming an important role greatly increased his popularity, getting articles from the New York Times and with the Washington Post. So he's building his reputation here, and that's great to see. Half Chinese player Zach Chu said this about him as well. To see someone of Asian descent and play as well as he does, it's cool for college basketball. Really cool for the Asian community. And it's great that people recognize him, and other players from that part of the world really recognize his game, and it's important. Watanabe, meanwhile, had this to say about his fame and legacy. Japanese are thinking Americans are bigger and taller and more athletic. They are thinking it's more difficult for Japanese to play in NCAA. But I'm playing right now, so I want to make other people come to the United States. So he's obviously trying to probably get the Japanese youth to probably pick up a basketball, play a lot more ball in Asia. And
sorry, I was going to say that I think it's good that he's an inspiration to the younger generation, starting off even just in college before making it to the league, showing people of his ethnicity that you can accomplish anything that you want to, even if it's not the most popular thing, only having 4 players in NCAA D1. He was one of the 4, so he's kind of paving a way for other kids of his ethnicity and race that want to, be a basketball player. He's showing that it is possible. You could do it.
Yeah, he's not too strong, not majorly athletic, but I think he can make a difference here. And I think just because you're not athletic or not really strong, you can still be great for your team and improve and get stronger in the weight room, obviously. So as long as you have a great skill set, I think you could be fine. Watanabe made his collegiate debut with the team on November 14th, 2014. He was able to set a new career high of 21 points against Massachusetts on March 7th. Named the Atlantic 10 Division Player of the Year, becoming the first Colonial to win the award. Another very impressive award to go under his name. And he did go undrafted in 2018, so it probably set his emotions down, probably lost a bit of confidence there. But I'm happy he kept on playing, and he got picked up by the Brooklyn Nets in the 2018 NBA Summer League and signed a 2-way contract with the Memphis Grizzlies and their G League team afterwards. So he kept on training, I'm sure, kept on working on his game, and someone realized and recognized his work. On October 27th, 2018, Watanabe made his NBA debut against the Phoenix Suns. He became the second Japanese player to play in the NBA after Yuta Tabuse in December that year. He and Rui Hachimura of the Washington Wizards became the first pair of Japanese players to share the court in the NBA. Spent the majority of the season in the G League though. Some big games we think we should mention are Watanabe's team high 28 points, 12 of 19 shooting, to go with 7 rebounds, 4 blocks, 2 assists, and 2 steals in the Hustle's 130-127 win over the Iowa Wolves. Also his career high 40-point night, shooting on 14 of 20 shooting on January 22nd in a win versus the Delaware Bluecoats. So another great game for Watanabe, obviously showing his offensive ability. Watanabe ended up being named midseason All-NBA G League for the Western Conference as well. Now, moving on to present times, the Toronto Raptors signed him to their training camp roster a couple days ago. He made his debut on the international stage at the 2013 East Asia Basketball Championship, where his team won bronze and stayed with Japan for the 2013 FIBA Asia Championship. So I love international experience. Personally, I think it's great competing with your country and playing against the best worldwide. It's obviously a great accomplishment to have. Watanabe has often been praised for his size, listed at 6'8". He stands taller than any basketball player born in Japan that has competed in the Division I of the NCAA. But Watanabe has been criticized because of his lack of weight and muscle. George Washington head coach Mike Lonergan said that he hoped that he weighed over 200 pounds by the start of his sophomore season. Weight is a pretty big thing in the NBA due to the athleticism and strength of all the NBA players in the league, but you still can compete. Another example, Chris Boucher, being a little bit lighter, obviously now working on his muscles and getting bigger, but you still can compete. You still can be very athletic, use your speed to your advantage, and do different things on the court to get your advantage on some bigger and faster players.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make note. We watched a little bit about his game. We did note that the size was a factor to consider. His skinniness, he looked a little weak out there, but I think he made up for that with some defensive hustle, and that can be seen from him winning the Atlantic 10 Defensive Player of the Year. He kind of showed it in the Brooklyn Nets Summer League games that we watched. He was, very good on defense. He got a surprising number of blocks for his size. I believe he's somewhere around 6'8", 6'9" right now. But he was very skinny and long, and he managed to get a large number of blocks, whether that be from behind or straight up. Even on 3-point shooters, he just did a really good job of that, and I was quite impressed with that intensity. And I noticed that his shooting form also, it kind of reminds me of like CJ Miles. He's left-handed, which is, not the most common in the league. So seeing left-handed is interesting. And I think they often say it's more tough for them because, you have your defender's dominant hand, usually right, is kind of closer to the left hand. So it's harder to get your shot off, but he has like a CJ Miles type form, kind of angled on his body, and the left foot lands first with the left hand leading. And he did shoot, decently in what we've seen. The 3-ball especially, he's able to stretch, and he seems quick, whether that be driving to the basket or playing defense. He seems kind of quick, but I think one thing we did notice was the strength there. Yeah.
Watanabe, another guy, I think he'll fit well in this Raptors team. Another international player that the Raptors are taking another risk on, which I think will turn out well. I do think he is behind Alize Johnson and Henry Ellenson at this point of his career. Just looking at highlights, I do think he has a lot to work on in terms of defense. There is some highlight blocks using his length to his advantage, but I do think Watanabe can get better defensively. Just his basic skills, stealing the ball, doing different things on the defensive end to be good. So I do think he has a lot to work on there.
Adam, what did you think about the size? I know we talked about it, and you kind of mentioned he looked kind of weak, that he could get bully balled a bit. And shot selection was another thing you pointed out. Care to elaborate on those two?
Looking at his body, I do think smaller guards in the league do use their body very well, especially when getting to the rim. Another comparison, Fred VanVleet. I was thinking about him going up against Yuta Watanabe and him using his body and getting to the rim. And I feel like Yuta wouldn't be able to stop that type of force coming to the rim. Having a bigger, stronger guard like Fred VanVleet. And I think that a lot of the guards are like that, very bulky in the NBA, very strong, and use their body very well. So he needs to understand that he does need to not gain a little bit of weight, but just gain a lot of muscle and be prepared for what the NBA has in store. And what was the second one you said?
The shot selection.
Shot selection. Yeah, I did think he was trying to shoot over guys. Usually when you have length, you're not too worried about who's in front of you because you can kind of get the shot over the defender. But in this case, I do think he was shooting too much contested shots. And I do think with the taller and quicker defenders in the NBA, will catch up to him, leading to a lot of block shots. A lot of very contested shots, which we'll miss, right? So we wanna enforce him to shoot more open shots and get him open, which Kyle and Fred and our playmakers will, I'm sure, do a tremendous job of.
Okay. So Johnson and Watanabe signed Exhibit 10 contracts, which are basically 1-year minimum salary that allow teams to convert the contract into a 2-way before the start of the regular season. And these offers are usually non-guaranteed, so that when they waive players, it doesn't affect their salary caps. And once waived, they can choose to join the G League affiliate team, to my understanding. And NBA teams cannot have more than 6 of these contracts on the roster at any given time. Adam, we should move on to the next one here to get this one finished off.
Okay, so Henry Ellenson. Ellenson is the last man of the video, obviously. Signed a multi-year contract, unlike the other 2 pickups. So he is actually on the team. He was born on January 13th, 1997 in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, to John and Holly Ellenson. He has 2 brothers and 1 sister. His father does have some basketball experience, playing 2 seasons of basketball at Marquette, the college he did go to, and 2 seasons at Wisconsin, while his brother Wally was a member of the men's basketball and track and field teams there. So another athletic family, and it's great to see. Ellenson played basketball and did track and field, high jump, and more. So he also obviously is very athletic. As a freshman in the 2011-2012 season, Ellenson averaged 12 points, 7 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1.5 blocks per game. As a sophomore in the next season, Ellenson averaged 21.5 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks per game. So a big upgrade, improving his game tremendously. He had many accomplishments in high school, including scoring a career-high 48 points against Minnetonka High School, 2013 Associated Press All-State Second Team, 2013 Big Rivers Conference Player of the Year and All Big Rivers First Team, 2013 Eau Claire Leader Telegram, All Northwest First Team, 2013 Eau Claire Leader Telegram, Northwest Wisconsin Player of the Year, first sophomore to win the award, 2013 St. Paul Pioneer Press East Metro Player of the Year, 2013 Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association Division II All-State First Team, and then 2015 McDonald's All-American and First Team Parade All-American, and Wisconsin Mr. Basketball in 2015. So obviously they like him there. In the summer of
highly decorated, clearly, for his high school career.
Yeah, a lot of accomplishments, and that's obviously nice to have on your resume. In the summer of 2014, he was a member of the United States national team at the 2014 FIBA Under-17 World Championship in Dubai, scoring 21 points in the quarterfinal game with China. Had one season at Marquette, averaged a near double-double with 17 points and 9.7 rebounds per game, with 2 assists, 2 blocks in 33 games. As a result, he earned All Big East First Team, Big East All Freshman Team, and Big East Freshman of the Year honors. When he was younger in his career, he was highly looked upon, especially coming out of the draft as well. So when he got selected by the Detroit Pistons, 18th overall in the 2016 draft, a lot of people thought he was going to become a starting player right off the bat and be a good force in the NBA. But he kind of slowed down, and his style didn't really fit the NBA as well as it did in college, right? So he actually made his professional debut in a 109-91 loss to the Toronto Raptors, recording 2 rebounds in 2 minutes off the bench. So what a coincidence, playing against the Raptors in his first game. He had multiple assignments with the Grand Rapids Drive in the G League that year and was eventually released in February. Right after, he signed a 10-day contract with the New York Knicks, then a standard contract as well. He also participated in the 2019 NBA Summer League with them. And then a year later, Ellenson signed a two-way contract with the Brooklyn Nets, but was waived in January after he appeared in 5 games. Later in the month, Ellenson was acquired by the Raptors 905 in a sign-and-trade deal with the Long Island Nets, and finally 1 week ago, he signed with the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, so he's clearly bounced around, especially between G League teams and such. And it's sad that like an 18th overall pick kind of had to take this path. He probably was like, highly considered a top prospect for going that high, and hasn't really, lived up to the full expectations, I guess, that he was placed under. But he was quite young coming into the league for the first year, and he's been a part of this league now for like, 4 or 5 years almost, just bouncing around. So he came in young, but he's still 23 years old, 6'10", 240. And what we saw from him, especially at his time at Marquette, is that he has a fantastic shooting form. It's beautiful. The guy can shoot, for sure, 3 balls like crazy, great stretch big, and he's quite fast too, and athletic for what I've seen. Like, doesn't have the most, verticality. I'm not talking in that sense or strength. I'm seeing more the speed, quickness, the ball handle is quite impressive for a 6'10" big man, and he can shoot. The problem I see is, I guess, like the bully ball getting dominated by larger, stronger defenders. And although he is 240, especially in his younger days, it seemed like he got bully balled a little bit more. We haven't seen the most out of him in terms of present day G League stuff, like the past 2-3 years. So maybe he has improved that aspect of his inside game, but it seemed like he was mostly just good with floaters and hooks around the basket, and then shooting top notch, I would say.
Yeah, I think players like Ellenson, Watanabe not being the strongest players, I think that's what keeps them out of the lineup. And it's very deceiving by the eye because people might think they're not strong. How can he play with guys that are heavier than him, stronger than him? And but I do think skill is a big asset there, and you need to look at their skill set and what they bring on both ends of the floor. Yes, obviously, we've talked about them gaining weight and stuff, and being more athletic, getting stronger. But I do think their offensive games are pretty good, and there is a big upside to that.
Yeah, there's potential, definitely. Some more than others. I think Ellenson would be a great fit for a stretch big that we can have on this team, and I'd love to see him play. And now that he's got the multi-year, we probably will see him at some point, and I'm excited for that. Maybe we'll see him in preseason and we'll be able to talk about it. But until then, we're just going to have to wait and see how these guys perform in training camp and where they end up getting placed. Okay, that's pretty much it. We hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. You can check us out on all the platforms I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. And yeah, that's us signing out. Peace.